History books for life.
Africa is not our home.
The Indians were you.
Welcome to the Aboriginal Channel. On this episode, I'm going to be reading some of the 103 amazing facts about the Black Indian of the Western Hemisphere, which is a book right here on Amazon that costs $250,000 to buy, the first edition. But it says 103 amazing facts about the Black Indian of the Western Hemisphere, unveils the true identity of the said African American, Latino, and Hispanic. It not only exposes the pseudo titles placed upon indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere, but acts as an antidote that breaks the spell of amnesia, an unprecedented work of art. The book is written in a style that deprograms the mind while reprogramming the mind simultaneously. But before I read some of those amazing facts, I gotta go over into Samuel G. Morton's 1844 book, An Inquiry into the Distinctive Characteristics of the Aboriginal Race of America by Samuel G. Morton. I like to reflect on this book because Samuel G. Morton mysteriously died 5 or 6 years after publishing the second edition. And although I don't agree with everything he said in the book, he does expose a lot, enough to know what you need to know. I'm gonna go over here where he talks about the Indians' capabilities on the ocean and compares those to the people of Europe, the people of Asia, and the people of Africa. And that's what they did back in those times. If you don't remember, a brother showed a lot of different pictures from churches in Germany where they would have a person of Asia, of Europe, of Africa, and of America. And the ones of Africa and America look similar to each other. So here it says, the Caucasian nations of every age present a striking illustration of this fact. Their sails are spread on every ocean, and the fabled voyage of the Argonauts is but a type of their achievements from remote antiquity to the present time. Hence their undisputed dominion of the sea and their successful colonization of every quarter of the globe. So right there, he exposed that the European Caucasians have successfully colonized every quarter of the globe. But it goes on to say the Mongolians did not possess the mechanical invention or the mathematical principles. So they were incapable of those mental combinations which are requisite to a perfect acquaintance with naval tactics. But it says the Negro, who he's talking about the African, whose observant and imitative powers enable him to acquire with ease the details of seamanship, readily becomes a mariner, but rarely a commander. And history is silent on the nautical prowess of his race. History is silent because, once again, the Africans were very, very dominant on the oceans. Far behind all those is the man of America. Savage or civilized, the sea for him has had few charms, and his navigation has been almost exclusively restricted to lakes and rivers. And I read all that to show that there's a separation in between the Negro and the man of America. Then when you go in the physical characteristics section, right here it talks about how it cannot be questioned that physical diversities do occur equally singular and inexplicable as seen in different shades of color, varying from a fair tint to a complexion almost black. So right there is talking about how they weren't all dark skinned or they weren't all brown skinned. They were all kinds of shades of colors. And this too under circumstances in which climate can have little or no influence. So no matter how hot they got or how cold they got, they still had the same color. So also in reference to stature, the differences are remarkable in entire tribes, which moreover are geographically proximate to each other. These facts, however, are mere exceptions to a general rule and do not alter the peculiar physiognomy of the Indian, which is as undeviatingly characteristic as that of the Negro. So right there, the Indian is undeviatingly characteristic as that of the Negro. So when it goes into 103 amazing facts about the Black Indian of the Western Hemisphere, right here, it's telling you what the Indian pretty much looked like. He's undeviatingly characteristic as that of the Negro. So when you see those pictures of those people from those different continents, Europe, Asia, Africa, and America, and an American and an African look alike, well, it's saying that right here in this book of 1844. And that's why they didn't want so-called black folks reading and stuff like that, because it's right here in the books. So I'll read about 10 of these amazing facts. 103 amazing facts about the Black Indian of the Western Hemisphere. Black Indians have lived in the Western Hemisphere since time immemorable. Black Indians were not spawned or created as a result of Africans coming to the Western Hemisphere during the transatlantic slave trade, mixing in and with native people of the Western Hemisphere region, also known as Native American Indians. Native or indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere, also known as Indians, did not refer to themselves or their ancestors as Indian. We use the word Indian since most people are accustomed to this title. The word Indian, red man, and Native American are European colonized terms. Native or indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere refer to themselves by ways of tones, vibrations, or expression. Your spirit said who and what you were. The name given to you was based upon what type of spirit you possessed. All native or indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere, aka Indians, possess different physiological features, hair texture, bone structure, and skin tone varied. All native or indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere, aka Indians, did not and do not have high cheekbones, slanted eyes, reddish copper skin, or straight black hair. All native or indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere did not live in teepees and pueblos. It is difficult for society to accept the black Indian as being native or indigenous to the Western Hemisphere region because society has been brainwashed with fabricated fake images of indigenous people in the Western Hemisphere, aka Indians. Most reservation Indians were carefully selected by the U.S. government to occupy reservations when reservations were being established. The U.S. government, for the most part, selected pale-skinned Indians or Hollywood version Indians to occupy U.S. government-established reservations. The U.S. government selected a certain physiological type of native, aka Indian, to promote to the world as this is a real Indian, as well as this is how a real Indian looks. The dark-skinned natives indigenous to the Western Hemisphere, aka Indians, were reclassified during the 17 and 1800s as Negroes and Coloreds. Certain dark-skinned natives indigenous to the Western Hemisphere, aka Indians, were given an ultimatum: go to Oklahoma and be an Indian on the reservation, or stay where you are at and be classified as a Negro or Colored. Pause. That one right there is reminiscent to how those counties or parishes were created right after the Civil War, and then 2 years or 1 year later, or the same exact year that it was founded, there would be a 9,000, 6,000, or 5,000 person population in that county. And when it says that go to Oklahoma and be an Indian on the reservation or stay where you're at and be reclassified as a Negro or colored, that's exactly what they mean. They stayed right there, but they weren't who they were anymore. Most dark-skinned natives indigenous to the Western Hemisphere, aka Indians, who were reclassified as Negro or colored during the 17th and 1800s, have found themselves in the 20th and 21st century again reclassified as Black Americans and African Americans. Through the history books, which has all been a lie. So therefore, if it's a lie, then what's the truth? If it's a lie, then what's